All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 470, 480-ish, I think, 477 maybe, of the Restoring Rapport podcast. This is a podcast for young believers who are pursuing the goal of marriage and family, trying to get married as young as possible in a healthy way according to God's design. My name is Seth Hensley. I come on the show every week on Sunday to discuss not only the benefits of getting married young, but I try to equip and encourage you in your pursuit of that goal. And today, I just want to remind you again that we are doing once a week now. We've transitioned to episodes once a week. And the reason for that again is because I have a lot of other shows that I'm doing right now. And so I'm trying to, not shows, not even podcasts, YouTube channels that I'm doing right now. And so I'm trying to make my time more manageable and work's about to start back. And I've got obviously the majority of my time is going to be with Lainey and the baby. And so, yeah, I'm trying to balance everything out. But I had a really cool idea, and also it was just taking too much time. So these episodes, what I have to do is I end up spending more time trying to find something to record than I do actually recording, and I minimized my editing time down to zero now, thankfully, which is a great way I've saved time. That's why I'm able to do more shows while still sinking the same amount of time into something. It's just optimized. But so I'm kind of trying to optimize this show, and I don't want to put a lot of planning into it. So one way I can do that is I can read through the scripture, and we're going to go through Song of Songs today because Gavin Ortland recently put out a video on why the Song of Songs is in the Bible. Actually, a couple reasons the Song of Songs is in the Bible, and you've probably heard this kind of teaching before. It wasn't new to me, but it was, I think, a good take on the Song of Songs, and that is it can be both a a song about God, the way God has designed human sexuality to be within the context of marriage, and a reflection of the Father's love for humanity. And one of those things is not true and the other is false. They can both be represented in the book well. I thought Gavin did a pretty good job laying that out. So if you want to hear his take, go watch his video. It was recently put out, I think just either yesterday or a couple days ago, something like that. Anyway, it'll be at the top of his YouTube channel. Just go check that out. We're not going to be reviewing that today, though. We're going to be reading through the book, which I've done before, like 3 times, I think. And I find the story of the young Shulamite interesting, and I think it does have a lot of good marriage advice. So, kind of, we're going to be talking about today what good marriage advice is there that we can glean from the Song of Songs, and then after this, I might do a read through of Proverbs, because the Proverbs also have some really good marriage advice. And simultaneously, I'll get my Bible reading in. I will contribute and serve and minister to my neighbor by creating Bible reading content. And it will be like marriage ministry because there's a lot of good marriage applicable advice in these books. And so I really want to quickly look up Song of Songs, information maybe, information and facts, just to give you a bit of a a precursor to this book. In fact, here's a 4-minute the Bible Project has a 4-minute video on it. I might play this for you.
Song of Songs. It's a well-known but not so well understood book of the Bible. It's 8 chapters of love poetry. And while there is an introduction and a conclusion, the book doesn't have any kind of rigid literary design, and that's because it's a collection of poems. They're not meant to be dissected or taken apart. They're meant to be read as a flowing whole and simply enjoyed. The first line of the book tells us that it's the Song of Songs, which is a Hebrew idiom like the Holy of Holies or the King of Kings. It's a Hebrew way of saying the greatest thing. So this is the greatest song of all songs. Then we're told in the first line that this Song of Songs is of Solomon, which could mean that he's the author. His name does begin the book, after all. But as you read the poems, you discover that the main voice is that of a woman called the Beloved. And while there is also a male voice, it does not seem to be Solomon's. Solomon is mentioned a couple times in the poems, but he's never a speaker. And you do have to admit, Solomon is a very odd candidate as the author of this book, given the fact that he had 700 wives.
That's
for
what I was going to
lovers
say.
in the Song of Songs, they are the only ones in the world for
Obviously,
each other.
yeah.
So the of Solomon likely means in the wisdom tradition of Solomon. He was known for his wisdom, his poetry, his love of learning about every part of life. And Solomon became the father of wisdom literature in Israel. And so his legacy is here carried on through a collection of love poems that explores the human experience of love and sexual desire. The opening poem introduces us to the basic theme of this book. We hear the voice of the young woman who delights in her man, a shepherd. Now, she's not married to him yet, but it becomes clear that they're engaged and they cannot wait to be together. From the introduction, the poems flow back and forth from the woman's voice to the man's, shifting from scene to scene without any kind of clear linear sequence or storyline. The poems move in these symphonic cycles, and key images and ideas get repeated and developed. So, one of the basic themes uniting the poems is the intense desire that this couple has for each other, expressed through their constant seeking and finding. So, after the opening poem, they're separated but on the hunt for one another. So the woman calls out, or she'll wake up from a dream or go looking for her lover, and more than once they'll find each other.
Okay, and I'm just going to pause it here. And this seeking and finding theme is something that I did see in my previous read-throughs of this book, and this is something that I think totally the church ignores when it comes to finding a partner. A lot of people act like a partner is brought to you, and that sometimes God just drops a partner in your lap, and I don't think that's how it works. I think if you knock, the door will be opened. That doesn't just apply to Jesus and salvation. That applies to marriage, okay? And obviously, I also think you're either purposed for marriage or singleness. But for those people who are purposed for marriage, I think way too often those people get told in the church that God will bring them a partner. And I think usually what's happening is, well, not even usually, that obviously God is the giver of every good and perfect gift. Every good gift, every good thing comes from the Father. But it's just like sanctification. It's just like co-laboring. It's just like bringing the kingdom of heaven to earth. You still have a role to play. And should you neglect that role, there are bad consequences, like wasting years of your life that you could have spent with your partner. Or even just not ending up with a partner. There are lots of Christians who want to be married, but because they did not choose the correct means of seeking and finding, like the Song of Songs discusses, they go without a partner, and then they're 50, 60 years old, and they've never been married, and they live a lonely life and very sad things and stuff like that. So just keep in mind, you do have a role to play. Am I talking about works-based salvation? Absolutely not. This is not a salvation thing. I don't even think I need to throw that in there as a clarifier, but you would be amazed how people can take you out of context on the internet. And I don't want to jump into that. So I just wanted to throw that clarifier in. But let's listen for that theme throughout this book about the importance of actually seeking the good things that God has for you.
Embrace, and then right when things start to get a bit racy, the scene will suddenly end, and a new one will start. They're separated, looking for each other, and on it goes. Another repeated theme is the joy of the couple's physical attraction for one another. So multiple times, they'll pause and describe each other with these elaborate metaphors. And here it's very helpful to know that these images and metaphors in Hebrew poetry are not primarily visual. If you try and paint a picture of these people based on the metaphors, you will end up with something that looks very, very strange. What you're supposed to do is reflect on the meaning of these images as they relate to the man and the woman. So you'll read through the poetic cycles, and the tension will keep building, and their desire and joy and attraction. And this spiraling repetition is a poetic way of heightening and focusing on the mystery and power of sexual love. It all comes together in the conclusion, which pauses to summarize what these poems are all about. Love is as strong as death. Its passions are as severe as the grave. Its flashes are of fire, a divine flame. Many waters cannot extinguish love. Rivers cannot sweep it away. If one were to give all the wealth of one's house for love, he would be utterly scorned. The poem highlights the power and the intensity of love, how it's both beautiful but also dangerous.
Yeah.
Like fire, love can destroy people if it's abused, or be life-giving if it's protected.
Yep.
Ultimately, love expresses the insatiable human longing to know and be fully known and desired by another. Love is one of the most transcendent and mysterious experiences in human life, and as a part of the Bible's wisdom tradition, this book says it's a gift from God.
Yeah.
After this, there's an odd poem about Solomon trying to do what the previous poem just said was impossible, to buy love. The woman rejects Solomon's offer, and then the book concludes with the man and the woman. They're separate once more on the hunt for each other. He calls to hear her voice. She begs him to run away with her, and that's how the book ends. Just totally open-ended. But that's a lot like love, which never truly concludes because there's always more to discover and
Mm.
pursue in your beloved. And so true love
Yeah.
has no end, and
Yeah.
neither does this book. Now, through history, the big question raised by the Song of Songs is what on earth is love poetry doing in the Bible? There have been three main interpretations of this book throughout history. In Jewish tradition, it's been read as an allegory, each character a symbol. So the woman is Israel, the man is God, and their love is a symbol of the covenant between God and Israel made at Mount Sinai and the giving of the Torah. This view flowed into the Christian tradition, but the characters were swapped. So it's about Christ's love for his people, the church. And this interpretation was inspired by Paul's words in Ephesians 5, that a Christian husband's love for his wife is
Hmm.
a symbol of Christ's love for the church. What's interesting is that in the last 100 years, archaeological discoveries among Israel's ancient neighbors in Egypt and Babylon has turned up all kinds of ancient love poetry that's very similar in language and imagery to the Song of Songs. We see
Okay, I do want to pause him here and say too, though, that these symbolic interpretations of this book are, according to Gavin Ortland, valid, but that also the book is just not an allegory, not a symbolistic sort of writing, but is instead just a song about the marital relationship, the marital, it describing marital love, describing a man and a woman's design for each other, describing their seeking and finding, all of that. So it's not, you don't have to read it as purely about, like, as an allegory or as a representative of the Jewish tradition or Christian tradition of Christ and the church or Israel and God. It doesn't have to be that. It can be just take it face value. It can be about the relationship between a man and a woman. So I just wanted to highlight that before we moved on.
that love poetry was a meaningful part of Israel's cultural environment, which has led most scholars today to view the Song of Songs as what it presents itself to be, an arrangement of Israelite love poetry reflecting on the divine gift of love.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that it's only ancient love poetry. There's a key feature of these poems that sticks out when you read them as a part of the Old Testament, and that's the overwhelming use of garden imagery. There are powerful echoes of the Garden of Eden and the idyllic scene between the married couple in the early chapters of Genesis. So the image of the man and the woman naked and vulnerable, but completely unified and safe with one another. This resonates in the background of the Song of Songs. It's as if in these poems we are witnessing the love of a couple whose relationship is untainted by selfishness and sin. And so ultimately, the song holds out hope that even though our own relationships are so often distorted by selfishness, love is a transcendent gift, and it's meant to point us to something greater, to the gift of God's love that will one day permeate and transform his beloved world. And that's what the Song of Songs is all about.
Okay. So now that you've got that kind of rundown of the Song of Songs, which I thought was a pretty good synopsis video of the Song of Songs, interesting to know that I guess Solomon is assumed to be the writer, perceived to be a writer, thought to be the writer by a lot of people, but that it's not known, especially because it's not really describing the way Solomon went about life. When it comes to his relationships, you could read about that in the Old Testament. But let's start on chapter 1, verse 1. The young Shulamite bride and Jerusalem's daughters. It says, the Song of Songs, which is Solomon's, the bride. So you're going to see this a couple times through. In fact, I wanted to say one more thing about garden imagery. He talked about garden imagery in that video. So there's this one part of this book that I think is incredibly applicable to marriage, and it's about catching the foxes that disrupt the vineyard. And the vineyard is what's good. The vineyard is the marital relationship. The vineyard is the love life between these two people. You could even make it the sexual life of these two people within this marriage. And it's talking about not letting tiny little problems build up and disrupt things that are so valuable that they should never be tarnished or touched by all these small problems. Okay. And that is just probably the most beautiful and brilliant marriage advice I have ever heard. There are so many marriages that end from people ignoring small little things, and it just building up and building up and building up until there's a culminating nuclear explosion, straw that breaks the camel's back moment, and then everybody thinks that's the moment that ended the marriage, but the marriage ended 10 years ago with by allowing these little foxes to get in the way of this union. That's when the marriage started ending. It was a very gradual process. It's not like you just wake up one day and you're sitting in a hopeless marriage. What happens is marriages gradually get worse and worse and worse if you don't maintain them. And you're going to see that theme occurring in this book a lot. Particularly listen to that passage about the little foxes disrupting the vineyard. I just think that's like the best marriage advice I've ever seen. Basically, so what does that practically look like? That means you don't let anything get in the way of your sexual life with your partner. Like when you're married and somebody wants to go do something with your family, or your kids, or have extracurriculars, or there's some movie that you all wanted to go see, or it doesn't matter what it is. If you don't have time to sexually reconnect with your partner, your marriage is not in good shape. That's what I would say that means. Let's take it beyond the sexual life, though. Let's take it to the romantic front. All these things are connected. I think sex is romantic, and I think romance is kind of towards sex. At least that's one of the things that it's ordered towards. But um, if if you don't have time together to talk with your partner, if you don't have time to interact with your partner one on one, be together, encourage each other, sharpen each other, just talk together, not about like the business parts of running a household economy, but just be together and enjoy a romantic time together, experiencing something new together, going on a walk, things like that. I don't know. If you don't have time to do that, I would say your marriage is not in as good a shape as it could be, and that's perhaps a little fox that's encroaching into the vineyard there, and that maybe that needs to be caught. And so, yeah, that whole chapter, or that whole passage about that, the fox is disrupting the vineyard. I just want you guys to listen for that when we get to it. But you're also going to see, he didn't say, I think he did briefly mention this in the video, but you're going to see the Shulamite, or the bride, or the beloved, or the shepherd king, the shepherd prince. I can't remember what he was called, but you're going to see their name put right before the dialogue that they have, to kind of keep straight who it is that's talking, because they both talk very romantic towards one another in this book, and we're going to highlight some of that too, and just talk about kind of the implications of that and what that means. But basically, you won't ever get confused about who's talking because of that. So I just wanted to make that clear. But the young Shulamite bride and Jerusalem's daughters, chapter 1, verse 1, the Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. This is the NASB translation. You can read in any translation you'd like. I like this one because it's even more literal than the King James, and so it sounds a little bit more foreign. And I personally like reading more foreign sounding scripture, because it takes me back to a more ancient time when this was actually written. And it makes me feel like I'm not just reading something that was written in a modern day, because it wasn't. This is an ancient poem that was written in a completely different time in a completely different part of the world, but revealing something about the human experience that literally 99% of people have, and that's a desire for a romantic relationship with the opposite sex. And so I'm like, I don't know, it's a beautiful thing to have a book so foreign and yet so easily related with. Like I relate with this book as a 21st century 27-year-old follower of Jesus Christ. And this book was written before Jesus even walked the earth in the Middle East. I mean, it's just, humans have so much in common, like it's just crazy. Like there's somebody told me once that there's only, and if you can, well, I'm just going to tell you the thing. There's only one man and one woman, and they end up marrying each other. And the idea behind that is it's the human experience. It's like there is no matter how different you are from your neighbor, there's some things that you have in common. Like food would be one of those things. Desire for romance, a sexual connection with somebody, most people have these things in common. Okay. And so, yeah, this is just, I like to read it in an ancient expression, even though I can relate to it so well. It just makes me appreciate that fact. Okay. Okay. The bride. May he kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is sweeter than wine. Your oils have a pleasing fragrance, your name is like purified oil. Therefore the young women love you, draw me after you, and let's run together. The the king has brought me into his chambers. This is the bride talking, who, as they said in the video, is not yet the bride. But, well, actually, maybe she is the bride because it says the bride at this point in the story. And then it has a chorus here. The chorus: we will rejoice in you and be joyful. We will praise your love more than wine. Rightly do they love you. I think this is talking about Jerusalem's daughters as the chorus, but that's just my thought. And then it goes back to the bride here. Verse 5. I am black and beautiful, you daughters of Jerusalem, like the tents of Kedar, like the curtains of Solomon. Do not stare at me because I am dark, for the sun has tanned me. My mother's sons were angry with me. They made me caretaker of the vineyards, but I have not taken care of my own vineyard. Tell me, you whom my soul loves, where do you pasture your flock? Where do you have it lie down at noon? For why should I be like one who veils herself beside the flocks of your companions? And then Solomon, the lover, speaks here in verse 8. If you yourself do not know, most beautiful among women, go out on the trail of the flock and pasture your goats by the tents of the shepherds. To me, darling, you are like my mare among the chariots of Pharaoh. Your cheeks are delightful with jewelry, your neck with strings of beads. So something you're noticing so far is that the description of love here is very it's a good thing. It's not just a good thing though. It's like a bountiful thing. It's like a larger than life experience and borderline obsession with each other. It's going to be like a flowery sort of what's the word? It's going to be over the top, and a lot of the time, over the top romance gets slammed today. Like people saying, "Oh, you're a hopeless romantic," or "You're just cheesy," or "You're being cringy," or whatever. That's what a lot of the young people say. But I think I don't know what that discomfort with it is necessarily, but I do think that this level of passion is completely normal to be placed in love. I don't think that it's something you can I don't think you can be too passionate about your spouse. I'll just say it that way. I don't think you can be too proud of them. I don't think you can be too infatuated with them. I don't think you can be too obsessed with them. It's really not. Now, there is some people probably when I say that what you heard was that it's impossible to idolize your spouse. Which I think you can idolize anything. So but I don't think a spouse is any more likely to be idolized than other things. And I also think that most of the time we don't have a problem with idolizing our spouse too much, but rather not prioritizing our spouse enough. And so I don't know. I just don't like it when I keep hearing Christian advice about marriage being a possible idolatry, and often an idolatry is how they represent it. But really, we're not seeing that today. We're just seeing people not have flourishing romances at all. Like, if you don't believe me, guys, just go look up. Like, the amount of sex that people are having today is like really low. It's really low. When you start looking at the numbers of, especially when you compare it to prior generations, about how little people are having sex today, it is very sad. And I think what's happening is we are thanks to the widespread availability and easy accessibility of things like pornography now, people are turning to counterfeits of sex, and instead of the actual genuine article itself. And obviously that's not what God's designed them for. So it's truly heartbreaking to see. But where it's even kind of getting a little bit worse, because now you have things like AI pornography, where you go onto these unrestricted AI platforms and you can describe a scene you want to see, and then a computer now generates an image for you that was not even recorded by an actual human being. It's so everything we are doing now is we're selling counterfeits of sexuality, and people are buying it instead of actually pursuing the genuine article that God designed, and it's really sad. So I don't know. I just don't think you can be too obsessed with your partner. I don't think you could be too obsessed with getting married. I mean, I'm one to talk here. Everybody told me that, I perceived them to think of me that way, as a guy that was just too obsessed with marriage. Which I get it. I've done like 500 episodes on marriage and stuff, but like I just think it. I don't think you can be too obsessed with it. Maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm biased. I just don't think you can be too obsessed with it. Okay, it's a good thing that God made. Um, yeah. But anyway, it says where do we leave off? The Solomon the lover speaks. Oh no, we read that. To me, we read that chorus. Okay, we will make for you. This is the chorus speaking, by the way. We will make for you jewelry of gold with beads of silver. Sorry, I yawned there. Okay, and then it goes back to the bride. While the king was at his table, my perfume gave forth its fragrance. My beloved is to me a pouch of myrrh which lies all night between my breasts. My beloved is to me a cluster of henna blossoms in the vineyards of Engedi. Is Engedi somewhere? No, it wasn't. Never mind. I was thinking of where Eden was, at least between the Tigris and the Euphrates. Those two rivers, I could have remembered their names wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm trying to. My biblical geography is not as good as it should be. I'm trying to picture where Engedi is, but I was wondering if there was any connection to Eden there, but I don't think there is. The groom is speaking now. How beautiful you are, my darling. How beautiful you are. Your eyes are like doves. And then it goes back to the bride. So they're just showering each other with praise here, talking about how much they love each other, how much they're obsessed with each other. And again, people like slam PDA today and like talk about like public displays of affection, being overly, what's the word? Like obsessed with your partner in front of other people. And again, I'm just like, is that what we need to be talking about right now in a culture where we have a low marriage rate, low birth rates, low sex rates, low everything? It's like, are we being too obsessive with our partner? Is that what's the problem? I don't think so. I don't think that's the problem. Like, so I don't. Usually, my wife and I are pretty like open about how much we love each other. Like, you'll see us doing like, I don't know, baby talk with each other just in public, and everybody. I don't know. People think it's cringy. Some people think it's cringy. I get it. It's not for everybody. But I'm just saying, like, I would rather err on the side of being overly cringy than I would on the side of being underly affectionate to my partner. Like, come on, man. The groom says, oh, we already read that. It goes back to the bride here. How handsome you are, my beloved, and so delightful. Indeed, our bed is luxuriant. The beams of our house are cedars, our rafters are junipers, junipers. And then it goes down to chapter 2. We'll probably do, since there are 8 chapters, we'll probably do like 2 a day. And then we will, 2 or 3 a day, maybe. I might do 3. And then we will do like 3 sessions of this recording, or 3 sessions of this book read through, kind of talk about its marriage implications. And then we'll move on to another book, probably like Proverbs or something, and just talk about the marriage advice that it has. But the bride's admiration is the next subheading. I'm the rose of Sharon, the lily of the valleys. The groom is the next subheading. So it's kind of like this whole book is kind of like a conversation between the two people. Again, we haven't really gotten to the seeking and longing part so far. It's just been mostly them showering each other with affection, or at the very least, telling other people about their affection. And then it says the groom here, like a lily among the thorns, so is my darling among the young women. Also notice how this book is explicit. Like, it says some very explicit things. And again, what that I don't know, Christians often get the reputation of being prudish and being people who do not think sex is a good thing, which is, I think, totally unscriptural. I mean, we Christians believe that God designed human sexuality. So I don't really understand why it just gets such a bad rap. Like, Christianity itself gets such a bad rap on this issue. It's like, I think it's just a misrepresentation because some people have been prudish about it in the past, and everybody assumes that all Christians are like that. But that's certainly not the actual doctrine and teaching and theology around human sexuality that the Bible describes. So if you're not a believer listening to this, and if you've seen people have that attitude towards it, Christians have a sort of a taboo, hush hush, we don't talk about that attitude towards human sexuality, then I would say it's actually those Christians who are off base as far as scripture goes. What Christians do think and should think, according to the Bible, is that because sexuality is so powerful and beautiful, it is also equally dangerous when counterfeited and distorted, and therefore there have to be parameters and rules as described in Scripture around it in order to protect yourself from some of the most serious damage that a human can actually go through should you choose to ignore the advice of the Bible. And so that's how I would describe it as a Christian. It's like, and everybody has those moral parameters. We've talked about that before. Even atheists, even secularists have moral parameters. They would still say things like adultery are wrong. They would just not be able to explain to you why they're wrong because the Scripture is not their authority. Their authority is popular opinion, or it hurts somebody, or it's not good for society. That's why something is wrong to them. But again, if you dig deeper than that, I don't even think they can explain to you why that's wrong. Why is it wrong for something not to be good for society? It's not actually morally wrong. It's just not beneficial. So if you go down that route, it's like, okay, it's not morally wrong to kill your brother, but it's just not beneficial to society. And I can't do that. I think that's an unbelievably insane thing to say. And so yeah, I think Christianity has the way better argument when it comes to ethics and morals. But that's a side tangent that I won't go down. I don't know how I got on that after talking about the Song of Songs, but let's move back to the Song of Songs. So they're showering each other with praise. They're describing each other. Again, keep in mind that this is not a visual description, and so it's not necessary. It's meant to be a meaning description. You're meant to think of like if it says your neck is like a tower, it's not actually saying your neck looks like a tower. It's saying there are qualities like strength, presence, permanence, millennium stretching existence, qualities like that in a tower that your neck has. It's kind of like it's a description and not a visual description. I don't know how to say it, but yeah, moving on. The bride. Like an apple tree among the trees of the forest, so is my beloved among the young men. So what is it saying? Is it saying that the young man is like an apple tree? No, it's saying that he is distinct. It's saying that he stands out. It's saying that he's a man of character and quality that puts other men to shame because of how developed he is. Okay, that's what it's describing here. It's not saying that he has bark. And I'm sure I've made that point now, so I'm moving on. In his shade, I'm just cracking myself up with my comparisons here. In his shade, I took great delight and sat down. So what's something there? Be a source of, block the heat for your partner. Like make their life easier. Create an environment for your spouse where they can completely relax and they do not feel stressed. And this is something listen, we all have to work on things. I have to work on this. I know I do. I do think I do a good job. If I'm just being if this is an honest self-reflection session, I think I do a pretty good job at not putting work on Lainey and actually doing everything that I need to do to make her feel comfortable. But what I don't do well is ironically enough, in the relaxation times, I don't really go into relaxation mode very well, particularly if there are stressful situations around me. They affect me. It's very hard for me to not let them affect me. So, for example, we went to Pigeon Forge this past week. It was our paying family vacation. It was a really great trip. But we went to the island. I don't know if you guys have ever been there. But anyway, it's this huge consumerism, hyper busy, very touristy sort of hub. Okay, a lot going on. You got ice cream, you got clothes, you got rides, you got dinosaurs running everywhere. You think I'm making this up, but it's an actual, it's crazy, the amount of stuff happening. And you can imagine there's like 1 million people there running around, like cars flying everywhere. They're going slow, but there's a lot of traffic, foot traffic, and car traffic. And so I am trying to navigate this as somebody who doesn't like driving and doesn't really like being around that many people at all because of the problems that can arise when you're around that many people and how crammed and crowded it is. And there's just so much potential for things to go wrong with that many numbers of people. So some people think I'm weird for that, but whatever. That's just me. So this is supposed to be a time of fun, right? Like this is supposed to be a time of us going out together as a family. We got the baby in the stroller. She's chilling. She's doing better than I am. She's absolutely destroying dad when it comes to having fun here. She's just looking around at all the lights and the noise isn't bothering her. She's chill. She's relaxed. And dad is like freaking out. Not freaking out, but like I get kind of quiet and like mutter under my breath and stuff about like how crazy people are when they do something silly, and it affects the mood. And what I'm doing is I'm not creating a safe space for my wife to have fun and relax. Like listen to how this describes the man here. She's describing the man here. She says, in his shade, I took great delight and sat down. I reclined, I relaxed. Um, she's not like on edge, you know? And so that's something I can work on. Like just make your wife's life as easy as you possibly can. And ironically enough, that's harder for me in situations that are supposed to be fun and not necessarily relaxing, but fun. If like going places kind of stresses me out because it's unpredictable and there's a lot of new things happening and you don't know what to expect or what can go wrong. And that to me it's very hard for me to unwind in that kind of environment. I like routine. I'm a little bit autistic, actually. I mean, not textbook autistic, but how people are using the word autistic today. They just use autistic to mean whatever they want it to mean. It's getting way too vague. But to be clear, I don't actually have autism. I'm just saying like that is like I obsess over things. Or not obsess. I can't get past that. So guys, give me a YouTube comment if you can relate to me here. Like if it's hard for you to unwind in times of relaxation and fun because of your environment. Maybe that's an introverted characteristic. I don't know. But continuing on here with verse number 3. In his shade I took great delight and sat down, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. He has brought. There's a lot of innuendos in this book, by the way, a lot of innuendos. So, I mean, obviously, you know, the Jewish people don't allow their boys to read this until they're like 13 or 14, I think. Um, I mean, I think it's scriptural, so I would probably read it earlier. It's just kids won't understand things. It's just like C.S. Lewis talked about children's stories. He said, as you get older, you can actually get more out of children's stories because you're able to put more into them. And so I think that's true of the Song of Songs too. You can read it as a kid. You probably won't understand really everything going on here. I think it's more beneficial to you to read it as an adult. But I don't think it's something that you should necessarily hide from children, particularly because it paints such a beautiful picture of the marital relationship. And with the declining population that we have, I don't think you can present marriage as too good an idea to young people. But moving on to verse 4, it says, he has brought me to his banquet hall, and his banner over me is love. So that's a famous song lyric. His banner over me is love. It's a Christian song. So again, that they're taking this entire this passage as and again, an allegory or a symbolism of God and Israel or Christ and the church, not necessarily a poem about marital love, which I think it also can be. Like if you just take it literally, that's what it is. But verse 5 says, refresh me with raisin cake, sustain me with apples, because I am lovesick. His left hand is under my head, and his right hand embraces me. It goes back to the groom here. He says, swear to me, you daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or by the does of the field, that you will not disturb or awaken my love until she pleases. So this verse right here is it's crazy how okay, people will take out of all the verses in this book, people will rip this verse out to tell people not to date, which is wild because the whole book is about a woman and a man pursuing each other. It is insane that we take it. Talk about taking a verse out of broader context. There has never been a greater grievance in that department than what we do with this verse. Like, guys, seriously, it's the Song of Solomon. Are you going to take this verse and encourage somebody not to date? Really? Okay, and why are you encouraging them not to date? There's a concern you have. Let's say you know somebody and you've quoted this verse to them or whatever. They're either too young, don't have enough money, they're not mature, whatever. There are lots of times this verse is quoted. All right. I think even this could even talk about fornication, about not actually having sexual relationships with somebody unless you're committed to each other through a marriage, according to the scriptural, prescription. But gosh, I just feel like to use this is probably one of the most quoted verses in Song of Solomon. Like, you can't really Google something like that. There's no study on it. It's just out of my personal anecdotal evidence, story based, what I've seen quoted out of this book. This is like top three. This is like top three, maybe top one. I'm not even kidding. And that's totally misrepresentative of the verse. Um, yeah, I just don't know about that. I don't know about that. So did you guys agree with me there that verse is just completely like this? That verse is not representative of this whole book. Like the past 30 verses have been them describing their love for each other, and then we zoom in on that one and quote it to young people. I'm like, what? This book is about the beauty that marriage can be and the relationship that you can have with the opposite sex if you put work into it. And you actually say good things about each other. Like, here's another thing. Have you heard or seen them say anything bad about each other in this book? Not only have you not heard or seen the Shulamite and the groom say anything bad about each other, but they've actually been lavish in their descriptions of one another's affection and positive qualities. So, like, that's great marriage advice in and of itself. Don't talk bad about your partner, especially to other people. But yeah, even to each other, like I don't talk bad to Lainey. I literally don't say the most I'll say is it bothered me when that happened, and I don't even blame her for it. I say this situation bothers me, and we can't let that happen again. I'm not angry at you. I don't think it's your fault. I'm not blaming you. This is just we need to fix this. That's what I'll say. I will not say, and she does the same exact thing. She has. You guys know she has not said anything bad about me in 3 years around me or around other people. And of course, I don't know what she says around other people, but I would bet folding money. I'm confident. I have every confidence that she hasn't. And the reason is we just don't live our marriage that way. We're taking the scriptural. I keep using the word scriptural like you're a terrible person if you don't do what we are doing here. But I think it's a good idea. Look, we're all in this thing called marriage. Some people have better fruit than others because they have a better approach than others. I'm loving our fruit right now. So if you think we have good fruit, take advice from me. If you don't, just keep scrolling. There's lots of people on the internet that want to give you marriage advice. But I think it's a good idea, and I don't think there's anything crazy about what I'm saying. I think it's just like it's a great thing to say good things about your partner lavishly and not say bad things about your partner. The bride speaks here. It says, "Listen, my beloved, behold, he is coming, leaping on the mountains, jumping on the hills. My beloved is like a gazelle or a young stag. Behold, he's standing behind our wall. He is looking through the windows. He is peering through the lattice." What's the implication here? The implication here is that he's coming for her. Okay, nothing can stop him, and he's moving fast. So that verse that we talked about above here, that you will not disturb or awaken my love until she pleases, is immediately balanced out by this verse here about him speedily coming for his bride. And he's not moving slow. He is moving like the wind. Okay. And I think that's how young people should do it. Now, does that mean that it's impossible to awaken love before it's time? No. You can absolutely awaken love before it's time, but the point is that you should be trying to move fast. Like if you're not immature, if you don't have enough money, whatever problem is keeping you from moving towards the goal of marriage, fix it. Don't just sit there and waste years of your life. Like you should be moving like the bride groom in this story. You should be moving with a speed towards that which God has designed you for. Don't waste time. Move. If you can hustle in basketball, you can hustle to your wife. Come on, man. Seriously. Verse 10, "My beloved responded to me and said, Arise, my darling, my beautiful one, and come along. For behold, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. The blossoms have already appeared in the land. The time has arrived for pruning the vines, and the voice of the turtle dove has been heard in our land. The fig tree has ripened its fruit, and the vines and blossom have given forth their fragrance. Arise, my darling, my beautiful one, and come along." So this is just a celebratory passage. This is what he's saying. I'm here. I'm ready. Or she's saying that about him. Sorry. And then it goes to the groom here. "My dove in the clefts of the rock." This is the groom speaking. "In the hiding place of the mountain pathway. Let me see how you look. Let me hear your voice. For your voice is pleasant and you look delightful." Look how many senses are described here. See, hear, sound, your voice is delightful, and again, back to the looks. Like, men are really visual. We really are. And I think that gets a bad rap in today's culture too, about voyeurism and the male gaze and all this crap. And it's like, well, I don't know. Maybe you're talking about all that junk because you've been around some really bad men. Because there's nothing wrong with me thinking my wife is beautiful and being obsessed with how she looks. There's literally nothing wrong with that. That's fine. That's how God's made it. The chorus goes back to the chorus here. It says, "Catch the foxes for us, the little foxes that are ruining the vineyards." There it is. While our vineyards are in blossom. And so I think what you kind of want to do here is with this vineyards verse. Vineyards, again, like I said earlier, vineyards are anything good. Picture the best romance life, the best sex life, the best family life, the best everything that comes from a healthy marriage. If those things are suffering, you have a fox problem, and those foxes need to be extinguished. And you need to do it fast. You don't need to wait and put it off and put it off and put it off. Catch the foxes quick. That's the implication. And then it says the bride speaking here, it says, "My beloved is mine and I am his. He pastures his flock among the lilies until the cool of the day when the shadows flee. Turn, my beloved, and be like a gazelle or a young stag on the mountains of Bether." Like, listen, guys, here's the question I'm going to put to you as we kind of wrap this up. Would you rather be overly, what's the danger here? Being overly, okay, how do I say this? What kind of relationship do you want with your partner? Do you want a relationship that's bursting with romance and affection? Or do you want one that is kind of dried up? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I think we all want the living romance. I think we all want the healthy marriage, you know? Deep down, I think we want that. I know sometimes there's hard things in between you and that goal, and some people aren't willing to do that hard work. But like, come on, man. What am I saying? I'm just saying, like, it's not how I feel like a lot of people think it's a weird thing to be too like really, really enamored with your partner. They think it's like weird, especially in other countries. Like, I actually think, like, not to call other countries out, but I think places like, well, should I even call it? I'm gonna call them out. You know, I'm gonna call them out. I think places like Japan, they're a little bit less emotional, and they're a little bit like, they're not as forthcoming with flowery expressions of love. They actually, my wife told me this morning. They actually have, this is kind of interesting. Japan has a word for love. The Japanese have a word for love that is not used a whole lot. It's used in times of intense emotion, at weddings or at confessions of love. That's really the only times that it's used. Maybe a couple other times, but that we forgot. But that's when it's used. And so the "I love you" statement, the confession of love that happens between a man and a woman, is something in Japanese culture that is very it's like not a one and done thing, but it's not said that much. It is kind of a one and done thing in that respect. And I don't know. I just like, and they might accuse American culture of saying "I love you" too much, like being too flowery, being too exactly like this book, too obsessed with each other, too like verbal and affection. But I don't really think that's a danger. I don't think that's a bad thing, because again, would you rather have less affection in your marriage or more? Like, what's the like, picture the extreme of either end. Let's say you got a whole lot of affection in marriage. Like, affection is not a bad thing. I don't know why we keep thinking it is. And personally, I just think sometimes U.S. culture does this, but I don't know. There's just a lot of different rules, and I'm seeing it kind of get into U.S. Not even U.S. U.S. is way too broad. I'm seeing some people in my small geographical area do this, and I just think affection is a great thing and needs to be abundant. It's actually a green flag, not a red flag. It's like a sign of it's good fruit from a marriage. So, yeah, I've been going for about, let's see here, 50 minutes. So I'll go ahead and wrap this episode up. We did 2 chapters. But I think there's a lot of great marriage advice in there, and not even marriage advice. There were a couple good tidbits of marriage advice, but just like overarching marriage themes. If this book is describing the human experience of love and the healthy marriage that is possible, it's very flowery. It's very affectionate. I think the question we need to ask ourselves, kind of about our marriages when reading this book, is affection abundant in our marriage? Is affection abundant in our marriage? If it is, that's a good tree bearing good fruit, you know? And so we can be encouraged by that and not discouraged by that. So thank you guys for listening today. Give me a comment about what your favorite part in this book is so far, as well as if you've read it. Tell me what your favorite part and future chapters is. Thank you so much for listening today. God bless you guys, and I will talk to you all next time.